Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and coming to a place near you, China passes amendments outlawing insulting of national flag. So I say coming to a place near you soon because maybe it's not the Chinese government that's going to break down your door anytime soon, though it could happen. It's the idea of their governance structure. It's the idea of technocracy that we are going to be seeing at full length, full scale, very shortly in the United States, Canada, Britain, Australia. We're already basically seeing it everywhere worldwide, and it's incredibly important we understand this issue. We're going to get into this article out of The Independent that says China passes amendments outlawing insulting national flag right away. But first, make sure to hit that like button. We have been completely deleted from YouTube, completely. So we are, of course, only on BitChute, LBRY/Odysee, and Flote.app, and I urge everyone to go to Twitter and message Team YouTube and retweet our pinned tweet regarding our deletion from YouTube. We need your help, folks, and we need to make the case against YouTube right now for the massive amount of censorship that we saw coming for a long time. We told you guys about it, and here we are. Of course, you could check the links below for many ways you could help keep us alive. We need your help now more than ever. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. Speaking of technology, this is the area that we are going into. As this article says, as I mentioned, China passes amendment outlawing insulting national flag. The Standing Committee of China's Congress has passed amendments to a law that will criminalize the intentional insulting of the national flag and emblem after anti-government protesters in Hong Kong last year desecrated the Chinese flag. And as the article goes into, the Standing Committee of China's Congress on Saturday passed amendments to a law that will criminalize the intentional insulting of the national flag and emblem after anti-government protesters in Hong Kong last year desecrated the Chinese flag. So just keep in mind that the government says they're there to help you, to keep you safe, to make your life better, when they do literally the opposite in every way. And if you desecrate a cloth or make fun of a cloth that represents not you, not the soldiers that fought before you, but the government, then you could face serious criminal charges. And in China, that could end up on your social credit, and you could end up not being able to get a bank account, not being able to get a job, not being able to travel, not being able to eat at restaurants, not being able to do any things that human beings can or should be able to do as human beings. Continuing on here, it says, according to the newly amended National Flag and National Emblem Law, which will take effect on January 1st, those who intentionally burn, mutilate, paint, deface, or trample the flag and emblem in public will be investigated for criminal responsibility. The law also states that the national flag must not be discarded, displayed upside down, or used in any manner that impairs the dignity of the flag. The revised law will also apply to offices in Hong Kong and Macau that are set up by the central government. The amendments to the law were proposed after anti-government protesters in Hong Kong last year trampled on the Chinese flag, prompting an outcry in China. At least 3 protesters in Hong Kong were sentenced for deserting or desecrating the Chinese flag last year. And remember those protests that quickly got shut down by the COVID scam that we've been witnessing for the last year that came out of China, but with help from the U.S. government? Because, again, I always have to make this point, and I'm going to get back to the flag issue right away, but Henry Kissinger met with Mao Zedong in the 1970s, creating an artificial alliance with China. Move up to the late 1970s under Zbigniew Brzezinski during the Carter administration, the creation of the Trilateral Commission in order to create a technocratic superstate with China. China has been propped up as an idea. It's not as much of a government, though the force is clear. It's not as much of a government as it is an idea of technocracy, that they're using China as a guinea pig state with billions of people to then enforce on the rest of the world once we see that all these people have become dependent, and it's part of their honor system to obey the government at every step. This is an attack on Chinese people. Chinese people are the worst affected by this insane tyranny. But it's interesting to talk about, how they say you can't display the flag upside down, et cetera, et cetera. If we actually look into the United States, people say, well, this is crazy communist China stuff. In the U.S., there's a code. It's called 4 U.S. Code 8, Respect for Flag, which goes into, and this is from the Cornell Law School, that goes into how the flag should never be displayed with the union down except as a signal of dire distress in instances of extreme danger to life or property. The flag should never touch anything beneath it, such as the ground, the floor, water, or merchandise. The flag should never be carried flat or horizontally, but always aloft and free. And it goes on and on and on. It's absolutely ridiculous how religious government becomes for so many people. Again, the flag is a government's version of the cross. It's a religion of government. The flag is a cross to them. You know, the national anthem is a hymns. The public schools are the Sunday schools. The government buildings are the churches. The news stations are the televangelists. And I mean, it goes on. And I think it's very important to point out this fact because, again, flags are cloths. They don't mean anything other than subservience to the state. It's a government logo, essentially. It's a government cross that people hail. And we see people hailing a flag. It's a piece of cloth. People will say, well, in defense of it, you know, people fought in wars and died. Yeah, they fought in wars that were complete frauds and scams set up by the government that sacrificed all these soldiers as pawns for the king and the queen, essentially, in order to grow the size and scope of government and continue in its scaling up of control over the masses. So, again, this is just something that's coming to a neighborhood near you soon. And the reason I say that is because with the whole Branch Covidian cult that's come up on the radar over the last year, what we've seen is this move towards technocracy. So what we see in China will happen in the U.S., and in this case, it was already happening in the U.S. before China even cracked down on this kind of stuff. And slowly they're encroaching on people's ability to protest, encroaching on people's ability to work, encroaching on people's ability to live in their home, walk down the street without being told what to wear, like the Gestapo is telling them to wear the Nazi armband or the Jew armband. No, they're telling people to wear masks, and they're telling people that they might have to use goggles later on, and that sorry, but you're selfish if you want your job back, and instead of using cash because there's a coin shortage because they're throwing all this money at the stock market, which by the way is all digital. Well, basically at bonds, then it gets into the stock market. What you end up with then is a cashless society, and if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's a bank's. If your money's always going through the banks via digital transactions and legal tender laws, it's never your money, it's always a bank's, and you are essentially enslaved to the banks and the government. And that is really the path they're trying to pick here, because they connect the cashless system to social credit. Social credit is what they have in China and what they're trying to arrange in places like Australia right now, where they're arresting people for making Facebook posts against government tyranny. What they will do is then they will say, if you don't get vaccinated, you can't have a bank account. Your social credit score will go down. Then you can't go to restaurants. You can't travel. You can't go to public places. You can't go to school. You can't do any of that stuff. If your kids don't get it, your kids will probably be taken away by CFS, and because then you're abusing them by giving them a low social credit score. It's basically an episode of Black Mirror, and this is the point that we've gotten to now. So I'm just talking about, there's this story about the flag. It's very minor compared to what the Chinese government has done to people there, and it's not necessarily China that's taking over the world. It's the idea of China. It's under the guise of China. It's really this powerhouse behind the scenes of all these governments worldwide who, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but during this year, almost every single government in the world had the exact same approach to COVID, the exact same, almost word for word, copy and paste decision making that every other government in the world had. If you look at the travel restrictions, if you look at the mandates, I mean, it's absolutely almost word for word in every government in the world, which tells you what? Are they all plagiarizing? No, they're all working together as part of the global order. And now we see this. It's this artificial fight between the U.S. and China. It's not It's not real. It's not a real fight. It's artificial because the U.S. propped up China in the first place, helped along China, who's had already killed about 50 million people under Mao, when they started working with China as creating this artificial monopoly on trade and commerce in China. Now they have an excuse to come in and say, oh, China's bad, they're doing all these things. Well, yeah, but you helped them do that. You put them in that place. Now we have social media networks like YouTube and Facebook, Google, Twitter, all these guys working with the Chinese government and the U.S. government both, and all these governments around the world to create this technocratic social credit score system. Of course, Mark Zuckerberg worked and went all the way to China to work with their artificial intelligence on facial recognition years ago. It's all part of the plan They're all working with the Chinese government, but so is the U.S. government. That's why the U.S. government put all that funding into Dr. Fauci's Institute for Allergies and Infectious Diseases to study coronavirus in bats in Wuhan, China, at the Wuhan Institute of Virology that was 96% similar to the novel coronavirus in order to see how to spread it to humans. That's right there, open documentation, easy to find, going up until October of 2019 for about 4 years. And we're supposed to just believe that that just happened by mistake. And then the World Health Organization, which is basically run by China, isn't allowed to investigate. And the World Health Organization is headed by Tedros, who gets funding by Bill Gates. And Tedros was one of the heads of the Ethiopian Communist Party. And by the way, almost all of Africa has been taken over, like the same way the IMF takes over countries around the world with debt, by the Chinese government. I mean, at what point do we not go, clearly there's a conspiracy. It's not a theory. It's obvious. In a court of law, it would pass with flying colors. It would be so easy to make the case. And here we are, where we're seeing these laws come up against flags, against saying anything bad about the Chinese flag. I'm just going to get myself banned from China right now. Fuck the Chinese flag. Fuck the Chinese government. And let's all work together to hope that for the people of China and Hong Kong and all over that region, that they can free themselves. And they stop respecting or revering the chains in so many cases because of honor. What's the most dishonorable thing you could do? Sacrifice your family for government. Sacrifice your principle for government. Sacrifice your very, honor, real honor for statism, the cult of state. Anyways, I really appreciate everyone watching this video today. Make sure to hit that like button. This video is exclusively on BitChute, LBRY/Odysee, and Flote.app. Check those links below. And again, let's reach out to Twitter at World Alt Media, at Team YouTube. Pinned to the top of my of my Twitter page is a message about how they deleted me. Let's keep pushing this forward, and I want my channel reinstated, not to continue posting there and feed the beast, but to be able to preserve the history of it, and in order to be able to send people from there elsewhere. I'm not going to be posting on YouTube anymore anyway. I was going to leave November 5th. Obviously, they deleted me before I could do that because they say I was bullying by saying Hollywood celebrities often are aristocratic and talk down to people from their mansions while their assistants go out of work. Anyway, nothing untrue about that, and I stand by it. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.